What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Haunted Beard. My name is Jake, and I have been making my way through the entire Nightmare on Elm series. Today I'm going to talk about Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. But before I do, if you like content like this and you like horror and thriller movie content, that is what I do on The Haunted Beard. Hit that red subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. All right, let's get into the movie. So A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master came out in 1988, and once again, Freddy Krueger returns to terrorize the dreams of the remaining Dream Warriors, as well as those of a young woman named Alice, who may be able to defeat him for good. Now, I'll just start off and say that Nightmare on Elm 4 is definitely a dip in quality from Nightmare on Elm 3. Some of the issues that I have with Nightmare on Elm 3, although I was predominantly positive on that movie, but some of those same issues really kind of carry on into this movie. I wish that there would have been a little bit better character development in Part 3, and so we get those same characters that return. You get Kincaid, Joey, and Kristen, although Kristen is played by a new actor, but this film could have kind of helped take care of some of those character issues. It would have given us more time. It could have given us more time to develop them and just become familiar with them and get to know them. However, this movie kills off those characters very, very quickly. And Kincaid gets killed pretty quick. Joey gets killed right after that. Kristen sticks around for a little bit, but she's gone halfway through the movie, and so it kind of does a little bit of a disservice. I felt like it had an opportunity to make up for a little bit of the lack of character development from Part 3, but all those characters are gone now by the halfway point of this movie, and now we have a brand new set of characters that we are not familiar with at all. And so it's kind of, it's like you have part of these recurring characters and then brand new characters that we don't know at all. And so, again, you kind of have some lack of character depth issues with this movie as well. Another thing that Nightmare on Elm 4 does is that it really starts to change the tone of these movies. Freddy has officially become cool, and I think it's pretty obvious when you have the sequence with Kristen dreaming on the beach and Freddy shows up and he puts on a pair of sunglasses. And you can just tell that this movie is kind of heading in a different direction in providing a bit of a different take on Freddy Krueger, and I think, unfortunately, it's to the film's detriment. You get just a little bit of a taste of that in Part 3. You know, Freddy has a couple one-liners, I guess, but this one, they really make that more predominant.
Rick, you little meatball. I love soul food.
He's supposed to be kind of this cool guy, this witty, slick guy who's delivering these one-liners every time he kills somebody, and he's no longer really this creepy, scary guy. He's just this killer who's supposed to be this cool guy who's, you know, delivering one-liners before he kills people, and I just really don't care for that type of direction. It's not too egregious, although I have a feeling that it's going to get worse in some of the later sequels, but they're definitely taking Freddy in a different direction here. You can really start to feel that. In addition to kind of changing up Freddy, this movie, I would say, has more of a goofy, silly vibe to it in a way. The scene where Freddy gets resurrected, it's literally a dog pees fire onto his burial site, and then it resurrects him, and it's just like, okay, I guess, like what it's just weird and bizarre. And then you've got the character of Rick doing all these karate kicks and then teaching Alice how to do karate kicks, and there's just a lot of really corny, cheesy scenes. Some of the dialogue is not great. A lot of the acting is really not very good, especially from the character of Rick. Man, I just thought a lot of his performance was just not great.
Just like that, big and strong. Do it.
Sorry.
Now, regarding the kills, I feel pretty mixed about the kills in this movie. Some of them I don't think work very well, but then there are some that I think do work pretty good. I think Kincaid's death is okay. It's fine. I think Kristen's death is kind of a letdown and pretty anticlimactic, being that she is one of the main characters in part 3 and really in this one as well. It just seemed that her death kind of lacked the emotional connection and gut punch that it deserved, and so it was just pretty anticlimactic for me. I also thought Rick's kill is pretty terrible. This idea to, again, the whole karate aspect is just goofy and doesn't work for me. But then to have him fighting an invisible Freddy in the dream world, man, that whole sequence is just corny as can be for me and just does not work very well. But there are some good kills. I think Joey's kill is pretty good. Some of these, unfortunately, kind of get not totally ruined, but affected by Freddy showing up, and then he has to deliver this quip, this one-liner, and it's just like, and this is kind of one of those examples where you're trying to bring this humorous element into a horror film, and it just kind of ruins the tone a little bit. But predominantly what I like about Joey's kill is the aftermath when his mom comes into his room and finds him, and he's literally inside the waterbed. So I liked that. That was a cool shot.
Joey.
I think Sheila'S kill is pretty good. The whole dream sequence leading up to it, where she's kind of just frozen to her desk and Alice is right there and she can't do anything. It's a pretty good kill. And then the idea to have Freddy literally suck the life out of her because she deals with asthma is pretty good, and the effects there are. I can understand somebody think they're cheesy and they look terrible, and it's like they kind of do, but it's like I kind of still like the idea behind it, that she like just completely deflates, and so it still kind of works for me, and I think Sheila'S death is pretty good. It was interesting as I was watching this movie. It's an hour and a half, give or take. And for the vast majority of it, I was just not really feeling it. Not a whole lot of it worked for me. I just wasn't really jiving with kind of the new direction they were taking with Freddy. I thought the acting and the characters were just not great. But then you get about the last 20 minutes, and the last 20 minutes, I think, in this are actually pretty solid, and it helps at least end the film on a higher note than the previous rest of the film. So the last 20 minutes for me, I think, are actually pretty good. And it really kind of starts with Alice going into the movie theater, and then she gets kind of pulled directly into the screen. I just like kind of the creativity of that concept. I think it's pretty cool. And then you get Debbie's kill, and holy cow, this, I think, is one of the best kills in the entire series. She's laying down, doing the bench press, and Freddy shows up and pushes down on the bar, and her elbows snap.
No pain, no gain.
And it's just gnarly and brutal. Then she starts trying to get away, and this, I don't know if it's an ant or some sort of insect bug, comes out of her. And Freddy traps her in this like ant trap, and man, the practical effects are top notch. It feels like something out of The Fly, the David Cronenberg movie, and it's just it's unique and different. We haven't ever seen a kill really anything like this before, and man, I really like it. It's brutal and gnarly and disturbing, and all of that. It's really good. She gets stuck in like the sticky stuff, and then her face goes down. She pulls her face, and her face just gets ripped off, and then the bug comes out. And man, I was all on board for this kill. I think Debbie's kill is just awesome. Now, during this sequence, we are cross-cutting between Debbie's kill and Alice and Dan, who get stuck in this dream loop as they're trying to go save Debbie. And I just really like that idea. This franchise hasn't really used anything like that before. This idea of getting caught in this loop, in this cycle inside a dream, which I really like. I think it works pretty well. Just something new and fresh that we haven't seen before. Then they get in this car crash, and then Dan gets taken to the hospital, and I just really like the visual presentation of him in the ambulance and in the operating room, just with the colors, and I just like the way that those couple of scenes are shot and presented. And then we get Alice's showdown with Freddy to conclude the movie. I'll say at this point, too, that while the vast majority of the first 75 minutes of the film, not a whole lot works for me, there is some pretty good and interesting camera work in the movie. Rennie Harlan, who directed the movie, he does this thing where he will do this like quick sort of dolly in on characters, and the camera just has a lot of kind of energy and motion to it. There's a particular sequence where Kristen, before she gets killed, she ends up getting drugged by her mother, and there's a scene where she's sort of wandering around her room trying to stay awake, and the camera's just kind of moving all over, and it just has a lot of energy to it, and it kind of sticks out. So there's some pretty interesting and cool camera work here. But let's talk about the final showdown between Alice and Freddy. I really like this whole sequence. I think it works pretty good. We get some pretty cool 80s style rock on the soundtrack, and she shows up and they're in this church and she's doing backflips and front flips and everything like that. And I thought the idea of defeating Freddy by showing him a mirror isn't my favorite idea. I read in some of the trivia that what they were going for is to try to defeat Freddy not through some external source like, you know, a typical weapon, but through showing him a reflection so he's defeated from the inside out. It's kind of an interesting idea, but I think the way they execute it just seems a little bit cheap. It's like all of a sudden she just sees a mirror and is like, you know, his own reflection will defeat him. And it's like, well, that's really convenient. But anyway, once you get past that, the actual defeat of Freddy itself, the practical effects here are just, I think, pretty great. As you see all these souls in him start protruding and trying to push through and get out of them. And just from the practical effects standpoint here, I really like this sequence. And yeah, I thought it's pretty solid. So those are some of my thoughts on Nightmare on Elm 4. And this one's kind of an interesting one to try to grade because, like I said, the majority of the first, 2/3, 70% of it, there's just not a whole lot there that I really jived with and really got much out of it. But the last 20 minutes, I think one of the best kills in the entire franchise, at least up to this point. I think it's got some just unique and new and fresh ideas, and it's got some really sweet practical effects throughout some of these sequences, and they kind of turn things around a little bit in that last little bit and kind of save the movie for me. So I don't know as far as a grade. I think, I'm probably still going to be at like maybe a 5 out of 10 for this one. And, you know, if I return to it, it's like I just know I'm in for the first, hour of it is going to be kind of but then I'm looking forward to the last 20 minutes because I think there's quite a bit of fun to be had in the last 20 minutes of this. So I'm going to go with 5 out of 10 for Nightmare on Elm 4. So those are just some of my thoughts on Nightmare on Elm Street 4, but hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you guys think of this movie. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you like sort of the different tone they give Freddy and all that? Would love to hear from you. Hit me up down in the comments. So next up, though, is Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, and this will actually be a first-time watch for me. I've never seen it before, so I'm interested to see what this thing brings, and looking forward to it. So that's up next, and we will see you then on The Haunted Beard.